What is up? It's Chad and Dave Schmidow from the Teach Better team here doing the thing we do every Wednesday morning, which is the Admin Mastermind Rewind. So, in case you already didn't know, most of you know, but just in case you don't, the Admin Mastermind is a group of administrators that literally is growing by the week. It's just getting to be this huge group of amazing administrators who are truly looking for solutions, sharing solutions, and having amazing discussions every single week from across the country. We have two meetings.
The world. Don't limit ourselves. The
Thank
world.
you, because we have Australia, Canada, and a bunch of other places
right.
too. So international group of administrators, an international group of administrators who come together every Tuesday, either in the morning session or the afternoon session. Yep, we have two sessions, so you can come whenever you want to. And we get to have great discussions. And I personally, Dave, love these discussions every week because I feel like it gives us a pulse of what's happening in education and in schools, in the trenches, from the perfect line of sight, right? I get to talk to teachers every day. I know what's happening in classrooms, but it's so nice to get that curriculum director view or that principal level view of this is what we're hearing, seeing, and dealing with from our entire staff. So yeah. I think this has been amazing. I think it's been very timely for a lot of these administrators. So how did yesterday's masterminds go? I did participate in the morning session, so I know a little bit, but how did the masterminds go? And what are some takeaways that you got from yesterday's masterminds that you think the audience can share?
Yeah, you know, let me build off of what you were just saying about the group growing. Literally every single week we have new people that join us for both sessions, which is amazing. And the thing that I like the best or the most about our mastermind group is that there's no group speak. There's no company line that we have to toe. You know, sometimes as leaders, as a former school district leader and building leader, it would be difficult to sit around at our district or our building administrative meetings and truly be transparent and be real, because you're constantly wondering, what are the other people around the table thinking? What is the company line? Am I in line with our current published vision and mission statement, as opposed to owning my own beliefs and my own curiosities? And with our mastermind group, we are turning into this amazing, diverse community of leaders and learners. Truly, when we say we are international, we are international. We have people from coast to coast and literally around the world that join us, that represent schools that have a variety of labels, from charter to at risk to IB to international prep, you name it, elementary, middle school, high school, district. So many different viewpoints are represented. And you know the old saying, the smartest person in the room is the room. These rooms are incredible. It's not you, me, Jeff, Ray speaking to people. It's us just opening up the room and allowing these amazing viewpoints to be represented and to be shared, and for the brainstorming and the growth just to happen naturally and organically. And it's powerful. It's absolutely powerful. And yesterday was no exception. Amazing conversations in the morning and in the evening. So you want me to just jump in and talk about some of the conversations now? Because
sure. Yeah. So like, what are some of the highlights of the topics that we covered? Or maybe what was a recurring topic, or what's a topic that is on the mind of administrators right now?
Yeah, so let me talk about the diversity in the topics that were brought up yesterday. So we had conversations. Yeah, we had conversations yesterday that ranged from, I'm a new administrator, I have a curriculum budget that is due in 3 days, but we're only in October and my budget is for next school year. And how am I supposed to figure out what my students and my staff needs in the middle of October? How am I supposed to reconcile those two things? How do I identify priorities? I have needs, but the teachers' needs are different. The district's needs are different. And how do I align all of those? So we had great conversations around something as managerial and logistically based as that, to conversations about transitioning to hybrid, when a full remote environment with a high school that has 2,500 students, and half of the students are online and half of the students are face-to-face. Teachers are trying to manage both, and there's attendance issues and how to reconcile that. To a conversation last night where an administrator was introduced to a family that has a student transitioning, going through transgender identity, and this administrator trying to figure out how to reconcile this and how to educate her staff and the community and the parents. And I mean, these are very real, open, honest conversations that are so powerful and so needed from all of us. I mean, I'm just sitting there learning from all these people and the conversations that took place. They're powerful because these aren't necessarily conversations, like I said, you can have in your closed space. Sometimes you need to open it up to others and say, feed me. And it was good.
And I think to your credit, something you've done a really great job is creating that space, creating that security way, because I know we've seen people get emotional in these meetings. We've seen people bare their soul with the understanding that they don't need to filter themselves in this group. And I think because of that, our discussions are so much better. So I do want to talk about some of the main pain points going on. And I love the fact that you articulated the broad range of things that we talk about, from logistics to curriculum budgets to, hey, what should I do? Should I go for my PhD or not? What do you guys
right?
think?
Yeah.
Like it really ranges like the gamut of potentials. I'm recalling a conversation I had in our breakout room, because that's how big these meetings have gotten, that we have breakout rooms now. And the thing that we were talking about was like something as simple as, should we require or put a policy in place for students turning cameras on? And it was really a great conversation, because the administrator was wrestling with the socio-emotional aspects of this, the socio-cultural aspects of this, the socio-economic aspects of this. Like, expecting students to be able to share their home is not necessarily something that I support in terms of a mandate. But I loved the fact that the conversation went from a logistical, should we make students turn their cameras on, to why aren't they engaging? Because the question I posed, and I think that drove more of the discussion, was, is it about the camera or is it about the engagement? Because for me, if a student's participating in the chat, unmuting their microphone, engaging in the conversation, the video is irrelevant. Like whether they're on camera or not doesn't matter if they're engaging in the learning. And then the second thing that I talked about was, when we look at these problems, we normally go, students are doing this or students are not doing this. But we very rarely go, what are teachers doing to allow this or not allow this? And so one of the things that I had the administrators think through, and one of the things that we talked about in the group, which was great hearing their perspectives, was, we know that the students have this problem, but the questions we need to ask teachers are we giving them opportunities to engage? Are we giving them ways to engage? Or are we expecting them to engage in wallpaper of us talking for 60 minutes and listening and take notes for 60 minutes, and then we're off the Zoom call? Because I can defend a student not engaging if they're not being given the opportunity to engage. So we really moved the conversation from this camera on or off situation to, let's talk more about, if students aren't engaging, do they have a reason to? And that's a bigger conversation. So so many great conversations, but that's definitely one that stuck out to me, because I think engagement's a huge pain point for a lot of teachers. They're teaching to black screens with white writing, and just pulling teeth to get the minimum amount of engagement. And it's really easy to go, yeah, the students aren't engaging. And I get that that's a problem. But then my question internally goes, is the instruction allowing for engagement in the process, right?
No, that's so good. And it reminds me of the conversation we had in the evening group last night, where we had a brand new mastermind join us last night. And this always happens. A brand new person comes and they're like, all right, this is how it works. Let me try it out. And they just drop a question that just leads to amazing conversation. So we had somebody their first time last night, and they are an administrator at a huge high school with, I think it was 2,500 students. And they said they have 40% of their students that are online learning remotely, but their remote instruction is truly, it's a Zoom call where a camera is set up in the classroom and the students are at home watching the instruction. And this administrator's question was a big one, and it relates to what you said. It said the in-person instruction is going great, but we have so many of our at-home students that aren't engaging. They're popping in for attendance, and then they're leaving, and they're not doing the work. Why? And her question centered around, how do I enforce student engagement? How do I make students learn? But we came back around full circle to the question of, yes, there's accountability. Yes, you need to have some procedures and rules and regulations and accountability measures, all that. But it came back to what you just said. Why aren't they engaging? How do we change that practice? Because at the heart of leadership, especially in schools, is instructional leadership. It's not always about managing policies. It's our job to help measure and progress the instruction that's taking place. So ultimately, we came back around and helped this administrator identify some things that they could look for to help support teachers to increase the engagement level of students. And it was a powerful, powerful conversation. And it was so good.
Yeah, and I really love the shift in that conversation. And I think that goes a really long way. I think we need to reflect on the conversation we're having about, are the students doing the work? No one's doing the work. They're not engaging. They're not turning their cameras on. They're not, like, all of these, to me, are data points, right? We talk, I know you love assessment, but I'm pretty sure you agree with me in that assessment doesn't just occur on a test or a Google form. Assessment is everything a student does. You can do behavioral assessment too, but you can also assess your own instruction via student behavior. So if students aren't engaging, so to me, that means for that particular situation, it's synchronous hybrid, right? So the teacher's kind of recording themselves teach a live class. So to me, I'm basically showing them an infomercial for what they're missing. Like, I'm basically going, this is what you don't get in that situation. I would argue, if you're not directly engaging those students in the online forum, right, you're doing a huge disservice to them, because they're no longer active participants in their class. You're wallpaper. You're literally the news in the background on mute for that student.
And I mean, and I could totally geek out, and we could have this whole conversation about even defining what the term engagement is.
That's true.
Which I could go down there, and I might dabble there a little bit, but I'm looking at one of our comments.
There's been some recent research into this as well.
Absolutely. There's a comment here from Nikki, and I'm going to point this out. Nikki writes, "Good morning. I'm listening while correcting assignments. Happy Wednesday, guys." I look at that comment, I'm like, yes, she's there, she's multitasking, she's doing the work, and she's listening. I would argue, because of how we're presenting this, she's engaged in our conversation right now. She's listening. She's doing other things, because we don't have anything interactive. We're not asking for dialogue. We're not asking for discussion. There's no turn and talk taking place. We're not asking her to submit anything or to share anything. She's a passive consumer. Yeah, she's a passive consumer in this conversation. And I would argue that teachers, if you're presenting information the same way that Chad and I are presenting information right now, having students multitask, screens on or screens off, might be good enough. It might be. But if you're asking for students to truly be engaged in the conversation, to actively be participants in their learning, to drive the conversation forward, other than just regurgitate back and spit back the information that you're spewing to them, then you might need to change your modality, because right now this is good enough. We truly just have webcams on while we talk. Yeah. And that might be good enough if that's all you're looking for. But if you're looking for students to analyze, synthesize, create, evaluate, actually meet the levels of rigor with standards, then this is not engagement. This is consumerism. So
yeah, and speaking of consumerism, marketing agencies, companies, Fortune 500 companies spend millions of dollars to get consumers to act and engage in their products and their services. And we need to do that for students. I'm not saying we need to spend millions of dollars, but I'm saying, well, we could use a little bit extra funding for education if anyone's listening. You can make that decision. But it's one of those things where to get people to act remotely is a challenge that every single corporation has been taking on for the last 50 to 100 years, trying to get consumers to act. But now students need to be called to respond. Now, I get that there's a direct difference. I get that there's a direct difference between getting someone to buy something and purchase something and getting a student to do work, but there is a connection there, right? You are both of those scenarios are trying to get someone to act or produce an action, uh, produce an action remotely without having direct contact or direct
There you go.
connection.
There you
So
go.
I think that's absolutely huge. One thing, Ray Hewitt, one of my favorite people in the entire world and an amazing educator and member of the Teach Better
Ray
team.
Stewart? I'm not sure if I'm familiar with her work. Who is
Well, if you're not, you need to look her up. She actually did a video of how she runs the grid method and learning in her classroom. And right now she's in a hybrid situation. She's got kids at home, kids in the classroom, very similar. But one thing I loved about what she said in her video was that she has every student sign into the Google meeting when they get into the classroom. So whether you're at home or whether you're in the classroom, you are participating in the virtual classroom as well. This allows natural collaboration between the in-person classroom and the virtual components so that you have a single cohesive environment. And it's not a us and them situation like the one that you described. It's this is our current learning environment. We are all here in the classroom experiencing this learning. And I loved that idea. Caitlin Giordano, another amazing member of the Teach Better team, runs a station-based model where like she gives the online classroom direct attention for a portion of the class and then gives them their station or their active work, right? While then she switches and then gives the students in the class their direct attention. But there are ways, is the only reason I'm saying all these examples, is there are ways to overcome the barriers that exist with this hybrid synchronous instruction happening, right? One thing I'll be honest with you about is that I hate to see information spewing, is what I'm going to call it, during the only opportunity we get to connect with students. That to me is like a crime against education, because you can share videos, you can share content really, really easily. And I'm not saying you can't do a 10-minute mini lesson at the beginning of the class or the Zoom call or whatever, but the fact that you're not sitting here doing small groups, intervening, helping that kid that you haven't gotten an assignment from for 2 weeks that still signs into the Zoom meeting, like that's where you're going to be able to connect, right? Like that's where you're going to be able to have the conversation and move the needle. But if you continue to just use that 60 minutes for, I'm going to talk at you and hopefully you listen, and then why aren't you doing the work afterwards? Give them time to do the work right then when you're with them. Then maybe you can move the needle and give them what they need.
Yeah, a perfect reflection point. So a lot of times when we do this thing on Wednesday morning, you throw out to the people listening, say, and in the comments, let us know if you're watching this live or on the replay. If your instruction is something that could be recorded and could be replayed later on, that says a lot about your instruction. Not saying it's bad, but it is that information spewing, and it's okay. But it's something that you probably could have pre-recorded, done asynchronously, and deployed it so that you can spend the other time actually connecting with people. So like in the live times, right now we've got the comments up and we're looking at those people that are engaged in the comments so that we can have conversations with those people. Oftentimes through the lens of administration's job is not to tell everybody how to do their job at all the time. Our job is to at times just create the box and then let people play within the box. And in the example that I gave of this huge high school where they were struggling with the student engagement, the administrator explained that there were some administrative guidelines for teachers and how to take attendance. And they have to take attendance every single day because funding is secured to attendance. They have to make sure that students are there.
Correct.
And that's the extent of the administrative guidelines. However, there were some teachers that took that to say, all I have to do with my online learners is just make sure they show up. No. That's just the bare minimum expectation. Now it's our job as administrators to support the active engagement of learning. So I think that's an amazing point for us all to take, that sometimes the expectations create the behaviors. We need to raise the expectations as administrators and say, the expectation is not just for you to take attendance. The expectation is for you to constantly assess and measure student progress towards mastery of learning. And if that means students have to be there every day, awesome. If they need to be actively engaged, however we decide engagement, awesome. If they just need to be able to prove mastery through a progression, the grid method or something like that, okay. But we need to set those expectations because that's what people are looking for.
Yeah, what you're saying to me right now is we need to go from survival to figuring out how to thrive in whatever this new environment is. Because I got to be honest, something I hate hearing, and this goes beyond the mastermind, kind of, but like something I've hated hearing is the wishing to get back to normal. Like the wishing and the hoping, like, I can't wait to just not have to wear my mask. I can't wait till we don't have to be socially distanced. I can't wait till COVID's not around. Like, and to be honest, I think we could all probably hope and wish for that because, of course, this is not an ideal situation for anyone. But I want to just give everyone a quick reality check in that literally the place I'm in right now is in the highest number of cases we've literally ever had. And the idea that this is going to go away and that everything's just going to go back to some past time that we enjoyed so much is a false hope, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't think putting our eggs in that basket is a good use of time, effort, or resources. So no. I truly think, and I love what you're talking about, is like we need to get away from this survival mentality. And I know everyone's stressed and I know we're pushed to our limits, but we need to figure out, with whatever the situation we are in right now, how do we continue to thrive and grow learners? Because if we continue to just hope for better and then accept the bare minimum now, we're going to get the bare minimum for the next year, 2 years, or however long this lasts. And then we're looking at systemic problems with our educational system because we've literally lost 6 months, 8 months, 2 years worth of growth in potential, student learning. Right. And so we cannot accept, even if it's set as the minimum bar, taking attendance. Like we just can't. And we need to figure out those solutions. And I have some, but like I don't have all the answers, of course. But and Nikki Jacoby says this absolutely perfectly. She's, we've been given a chance to evolve, and so many people aren't embracing that.
So I want to respond to that with two things. Number one, it's sort of like reminiscing and saying, man, I can't wait for my TV habits to go back to where they were in high school with must-see TV. I mean, Thursday nights, I knew where I was. I was sitting on the couch and I was watching. Back when I was a kid, it was The Cosby Show and Family Ties on Thursday night.
And it was only on one.
Cheers. It was on Thursday night. And then ER came out. And then it was Friends and Seinfeld. Thursday nights were where it was at. I mean, must-see TV. If you wanted to watch your shows, you had to be tuned in from 8 to 10 o'clock on Thursday nights. Those days are gone. And now we are in this Netflix age where, before we even got to Netflix, it was DVR. You could record everything.
Yeah, TiVo and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would record my sports, so I could fast forward through timeouts and through halftime, and I could watch a 3.5 hour game in about 45 minutes. Now everything is digital. Now you can watch anything anytime you want to. And I could sit back and reminisce and say, I'm not going to watch TV again until NBC goes back and creates a must-see lineup on Thursday nights. Or I could say, or I can embrace the fact that I can watch TV whenever I want, wherever I want, however I want, on my phone or on my computer or on my TV at any time. It's kind of the same thing that's evolving in classrooms right now, where things are shifting, things are adjusting. Our kids are this YouTube, Netflix generation where they're used to watching and tuning in whenever, wherever. This is an opportunity for us to embrace. But like Nikki said, this is an opportunity for us to evolve and to embrace something new. But so many people aren't. And I don't think it's because people are actively resisting. I mean, there are some that say, I don't want to change. But something that we've talked about with our admin group, even last night we talked about it. You know, at the end of all of our sessions in the morning and the evening, we offer commitments. And as people, we say, what are some things that we want to work on to get better? And yesterday we reframed it and said, what do we want to change? In other words, what are you willing to give up in order to get something new and better? And I think in schools, that is something that we lose sight of all the time, that we have to stay balanced, which means when you add something new, you have to take something away. And so many people are wanting to go back because they feel like so much has been added onto them and nothing has been taken away. It is our responsibility to identify what can we get rid of so that we can embrace the new. If we want to evolve and we want to grow, something else has to go. There's a reason that we as human beings no longer have tails. That was something we gave up so that we could get something new. You know, the same thing needs to happen in schools. Administrators, quit trying to find the next best thing without trying to figure out what the old thing is that needs to go.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that echoes another conversation we had about sort of prepackaged curriculums, right?
Oh yeah,
I think that's been a huge pain point for a lot of budgets and curriculum people and
but
instructional
it's
leaders
easy.
right now.
It's easy, right?
So, and so I think a lot of people, to your point, are sort of using the comfort of having this scripted, perfectly laid out curriculum, even with the knowledge that it's not perfect or what's best for the kids, or even though if it doesn't fit their exact situations, right? And what we found in our group across the board was that it's not about giving teachers this pre-written curriculum. It's about you sacrificing that curriculum to increase the freedom and innovation that can happen in the classroom,
Yeah.
and to give kids what they need. And a lot of leaders right now, according to our conversations, are trying to navigate that discussion. And that's one thing that came up. Um, Jeff says he wishes he still had a tail. Well, your coccyx is kind of like the reminiscent
All
tail
right,
that we
science
have. Like
guy.
you do have a tailbone.
But I think
It's
that's
fused. George Costanza, speaking of must-see TV, yeah, had a actually no, not George Costanza. His character in another movie had a tail. Oh my gosh, wow! So the actor that played George Costanza had a tail in a movie called Shallow Hal. That's what I got confused about. Anyway, this is going way off the rails now. Um,
but talk about that, the whole scripted curriculum piece and having that safety net. Let me
sure.
make this very real. I've got 4 kids. I've shared this a lot. My oldest is a high school freshman right now. He just learned how to tie his shoes 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Why? Because I bent down and tied his shoe for him every day before school. I made sure it was double knotted, sometimes triple knotted, so that it would never come untied in school. He was a kid that had training wheels on his bike for a long time because I was uncomfortable with him wobbling and falling down. Had I released some of that stuff early on and actually made life uncomfortable for him early on, he probably would have learned those skills a whole lot earlier.
Productive
It's the same
struggle.
thing
Yeah.
with our administrators. Sometimes we need to offer tremendous support, leave training wheels on, bend down and tie shoelaces for people because there's a lot of other things going on and one more thing will overwhelm. But sometimes we just need to release control, empower people to make decisions, and get rid of the script. Allow teachers to go back to remember why they became teachers, how they became teachers, and how to use all the pedagogical skills to teach kids, because they're kids and they matter. Don't just follow the script. Don't just live within the box. Administrators, sometimes you got to get rid of that so that your teachers can grow.
Yeah, I had a sidebar discussion after the mastermind with a group of teachers and leaders yesterday. And one of the things I asked them, I go, do you know what a successful classroom feels like in your school? Like, do you know what that feels like? Do your teachers know what that feels like? Do your students know what that feels like? Because if you don't know what you're aiming for, it's really hard to curate initiatives, tools, resources, curriculums that build that idea. And a lot of the work we do here on the Teach Better team is not necessarily providing this script or these prepackaged curriculums. It's building capacity to thrive regardless of those things. So one thing I'm very proud to say is, and that I'd like to still avoid if we can, is I never want to be a curriculum company. I want to still provide teachers the freedom and the access and the ability to figure out what's best for their kids while building their capacity to thrive with best practices, with good pedagogy, with innovative ideas in assessment and application and mastery learning and all of those pieces. So that regardless of the new curriculum, regardless of the environment, that they're going to be able to be okay. And a lot of times the funny thing is, Dave, you know this because you've worked in the central office before, districts spend so much money on new textbooks and curriculums, hundreds of thousands of dollars for like a middle level math textbook or something like that. And what I usually argue is if you just showed your teachers how to more effectively use their own abilities, you not only that never goes out of style, that never needs a new textbook. You've increased the capacity of your staff. And as an entire country right now, I don't think curriculums or programs are going to be the solution. I think people will be the solution. I think innovation and instruction will be the solution. I think empowering educators with training, development, and skills will be the solution. And giving them what they need so they can realize, like you said, why they do this. And they can find their own ability and their own, let's say, superpowers again. Because I think a lot of them forgot they had them.
Right. And so here's the irony. And if anybody is going to repurpose this clip, I don't know if I want you to repurpose this or if I want you to. So let me put that caveat out there. My last job, I was a curriculum director, an assistant superintendent, curriculum and instruction.
Right.
My first PD I did with my entire school staff, district staff. I threw the question out and asked for teachers to respond digitally. I asked them to define the word curriculum. It's part of my title. And I wanted them to describe what curriculum was. It was crickets. And those that did respond, the diversity of answers was paramount. I mean, they were all over the place, just trying to identify and define what curriculum is. So I think that's an interesting piece. The second point I want to break down, in this last district I was in, there was a stated explicit expectation that we would not spend professional development dollars to bring in outside experts. Okay, let me just put that there. We would not hire outside experts to come into our district. Yet, my curriculum budget was $350,000 to go out and buy packaged programs that so-called X could have a script to follow. The irony of that and the hypocrisy of that is just crazy. Instead of using our money to empower and equip our teachers to actually think for themselves, to learn how to teach better, we said, let's go out and spend an astronomical amount of money to give teachers a script and rein them in and put them in a box so that they can't learn and grow. It made no sense to me, but here we are. Leaders, teach your teachers how to teach better. That is our goal, period. Help them grow. Don't rein them in.
And think about the investment. I mean, I think we can end with that. Invest in people over
products.
Textbooks, over products. And growing your staff, giving them additional training, development, growing their skills, not only makes them more confident. Like I got the best email last night and it made me smile, and I got a lot going on right now and it just made my entire day. Someone thanked myself and the Teach Better team for being the sprinkles on their ice cream. And it was like my favorite line of all time. And I just love that. I love being able to be the sprinkles on someone's ice cream. I'm not necessarily the cone. I didn't put the ice cream on there, but we can make that a little bit better and add some sprinkles. And that's kind of how I envision like all of these teachers. They're already doing an amazing job. They already have amazing skills. How do we enhance that? Because when you invest in people as a leader, you invest in growing individuals over programs. Programs come and go. Curriculums come and go. Textbooks go out of date. People are always going to be there. So if you grow that capacity, your investment actually takes you further, because teachers will generally be in a district for much longer than a textbook. So if a teacher's in a district for 10, 15, 20, 30 years or their entire career, you get that investment back every single year. So not only from a financial standpoint are you getting a bigger return on your investment, you're growing confidence, you're reducing stress, you're increasing capacity, because successful teachers are less stressed. Successful teachers feel more confident about what they do. They communicate easier and all of these things. So Jeff said now he wants ice cream.
And while Jeff is going out and eating his ice cream, I'm going to do a shameless plug real quick that you just made me connect some dots on. For people that are watching this on a replay, or even now, you might not have seen that last night, Jeff and Ray went live to talk about yet another thing that the Teach Better team is doing to help grow people. You know, there's 3 tiers of coaching that are now available. You can drop into something similar to a mastermind, but for teachers to grow and have this collegiality to grow in a safe space. You can go to this level 2 or tier 2 system where you can jump in and say, I want to grow with a cohort of people and understand a concept like the grid method better in a safe and transparent environment. Administrators, leaders, you can sign up entire departments and grade levels and schools for one of those tiers if you so choose. Or you as an individual can go out there and say, I want to personally grow. I want to connect with somebody like Chad or with Jeff or like Hans Apple and say, I want to grow. And you can do this personalized coaching. There are so many ways and opportunities for people to get better, to truly invest in things that matter more. It's just up to us to figure out, is it really our priority? Is it something that we really care passionately about? Are we really in the people growing business? And I think this is a great opportunity for you to put your money where your mouth is, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So many opportunities. And I think it's great, honestly. I'm going to kind of try to wrap this up. I don't want to keep you here all morning, but one of the things is that Teach Better offers so many different avenues. And I think administrators support something we've always provided, but haven't as directly provided as much as we are right now. I think we have more resources with this mastermind. We have more direct resources in terms of our content, and we have more resources to help leaders in education than we ever have before. Now, we have always and will continue to always provide for teachers in the trenches, in the classroom. But I think right now we have more resources available for administrators, leaders, and just so many more people that can help. Yourself and other administrators that are now part of the Teach Better team that were not part of the team 2 years ago. We have so much of a greater capacity to, I think, holistically impact and change education. This mastermind is a huge component of that. It's increasing our network, and we have so many opportunities. So I guess the only thing I'm saying is, whether you're part of this mastermind or not, you can sign up at teachbetter.com/mastermind. You can get the reminders. Come, don't come every other week, come once a month, come once a year, whatever you want to do is absolutely fine. But get what you need. Because right now, I'm going to tell you, if you want to get better, we can help. If you want to get better and improve, we can help. We have resources. So if you're deciding not to get better, if you're deciding not to improve, it's a choice being made. That seems super harsh. But if you're deciding right now with all of the resources available that you don't want help, or you don't need help, or you don't want to get better, or you don't need that extra handout or resource or PDF or blog or video or group or meetup or Voxer, whatever, you're making a choice to survive instead of thrive. You're making that choice.
Absolutely. And Mastermind, it costs what, $1,000 a year? Is that what the going rate is right now to be part of the Mastermind?
No, it is free, Dave.
Can I drop my PayPal link in there for those that want to pay $1,000 a year, or no?
No, I'm sorry. Okay. No, you cannot. You cannot do that. It is absolutely free. It is absolutely free for anyone who wants to get better and improve. So, awesome. Dave, I want to thank you as always for your time, for your expertise, and just everything you give to the team in this group and all the administrators that join every week. I want everybody to have an amazing rest of the week. I want you to stay awesome and always pursue better. Have a great morning.